Alright. The claim was concealed weapons have a significant negative effect on the country. The supporting claims were first off, adults carrying concealed handguns inflict violence. Secondly, carrying a concealed handgun increases the chance of a confrontation, escalating and turning lethal. And lastly, adult carrying weapons have a negative result in public safety. I'm going to refute this by showing you that the evidence provided to support the secondary claims is not sufficient, and some may be biased as well. First off, adults carrying concealed handgun inflict violence. My opponent proved this fact by showing that permitting concealed handguns increased crime, and the data he provided was, quote, another study of Texas permissive concealed carry law found that between January 1st and August 31st of 2001, Texas concealed handgun license holders were arrested for 5,314 crimes, including murder, rape, kidnapping, and theft. The investigation found that some license holders had been arrested for more than 2 crimes per day. Now, according to some research I've done at home, that according to handgun licensing programs by Texas Department of Public Safety, the total number of handgun holders are to be around 217,588. Since there's only about 5,000 of them committing crimes, that's only resulting to 2% of the whole population, which is not a significant amount to prove that adults carrying concealed handguns will inflict violence. The second claim was carrying a concealed handgun increases the chance of a confrontation, escalating, and turning lethal. The data he provided was, according to a Violence Policy Center analysis of news reports, the CCW, which stands for Carrying Concealed Weapon, permit holders have killed at least 14 law enforcement officers and 622 private citizens since May of 2007. These includes 27 mass shootings and murder-suicides. Now, according to some data I've also found, according to the Uniform Crime Reports provided by the FBI, in the year 2007, there were a total of 597,447 violent crimes committed. Now, these violent crimes include, violent crimes are defined as offenses of murder, manslaughter, forcible rape, and robbery. The killings, which are included in this definition, are part of this number, which is very small, considering about, at most 700 was committed by people carrying lethal weapon, and the total number was roughly around 600,000 violent crimes. This shows that the reason is not the people carrying the guns resulting in violence. It's not because they have a concealed handgun that increase the chance of confrontation escalating. It's probably due to some other reasons, maybe mental issues, circumstances, that can result in this. The last claim was that concealed weapons law make the non-carrying public feel less safe, and the data he supported was a poll. He found that nearly 2 in 3 Americans say that they would feel less safe if they were in a public place and knew that they had concealed firearms. I went on the same site as he did, and I found that this poll was conducted by a CNN news report, and CNN, I went on their website and Googled the topic. It turns out they're a little biased, and they're biased towards gun control, which means they want gun control. I went on the website and Googled and searched concealed weapons and found some of the titles of the article were Ohio moviegoer indicted on weapon charges. Keith Appling arrested for carrying loaded assault rifles at strip club, and Will Smith shooting. Suspect found out victim's ID the next day, authority says. This shows that this news network only is showing that the negative side of carrying a concealed weapon. They're trying to inflict fear so they can pass on concealed weapon laws, rather than showing the whole picture, like the good of it, and being objective. So that undermines the data provided by them. In conclusion, as you heard today, the evidence is not sufficient to prove that concealed weapon has a significant negative effect on the country because the data doesn't support it. Thank you.
Right, well, the structural materials labeled pretty clearly. The argument on the first point is basically a statistical issue that suggests that it's a relatively small percentage of the population that commits crimes who have concealed weapons. So I can see that. I think a piece of data that might be missing here is the total population in Texas in particular who have concealed weapon licenses and the percentage of them that have committed crimes, and then compare that to the rest of the population and the percentage that commit crimes. If there's a substantial difference, then maybe the other side has a legitimate argument, but we don't get any of that comparison that's being presented here, and that seems like a good point that you could develop. I thought you did a reasonable job trying to diminish that argument with the statistic that you had. I just think that there's another step in the process that would make that argument a little bit stronger. On the second point, you kind of have the same sort of argument here. Look, the truth of the matter is we have violent crimes committed all over the place by a variety of people. The notion that the concealed weapon had something to do with inducing the violence, I think, is a little problematic. For instance, they mentioned the 700 crimes that they're talking about here, and you say, and would you point out that all the rest of the people who didn't have guns committed a hell of a lot more crime in the long run? So why is it that you think that it's the possession of the gun that induced them to commit the crime versus the fact that they have some other issue that's going on? I think you needed to explain that a little bit more. I think that's the point that you're trying to make there, and I think that that's a reasonable press on that particular point, but it doesn't come across as effectively as it needs to. Your third point, the idea that there's something wrong with the poll is okay. I think you go a little long on that press trying to find some bias in CNN. First of all, like we talked about, all opinion polling is just people's opinions, and it happens to be who you happen to talk to at the time. It would have been interesting to see how the question was phrased in that particular poll. Maybe that would be a more particular way of going after it. You just kind of generally go after CNN. And I think that there's an argument to be made that suggests that media often look for a particular point of view when they're doing their research. If you had some reason to believe that the poll was being done in a way that manipulated the numbers, I think it would be helpful. As it is, to me, that feels like just a slight press on the argument. It's not really something that's as strongly convincing as it could be. All right, thank you.